Hello and welcome. Over 2,500 food delivery workers from the Zomato-owned Blinkit have been on strike across India, from the national capital region to Kolkata, Hyderabad and Pune. The delivery agents are protesting after the company changed the basis on which they will get paid and how much they will get paid. Blinkit, a quick grocery delivery app in India, formerly known as Grofers, has slashed the pay of its delivery partners to 15 rupees per delivery, down from 25. This follows a cut that took place just in July 2022, when pay was reduced from 50 rupees per delivery to 25 rupees per delivery. Now, the protests led to the shutdown of over 50 dark stores, or basically facilities where products are stored and packaged for pickup by delivery workers. Blinkit is owned by Zomato. That's one of India's largest food delivery platforms, and Zomato has not conceded to the workers' demands yet. Gig workers have for long harbored grievances about income security, the precariousness of job stability. Over the years, Uber, Ola drivers have been protesting about big drops in their income. This is even in the US and the UK. But is this the tipping point? The new payout structure for delivery partners, riders say, has resulted in significant earnings drops for delivery workers, who on an average now, they say, earn 600 to 700 rupees a day as opposed to 1,200 earlier. The COVID-19 pandemic made gig workers an essential workforce who fulfilled a crucial role in our society, in our economy, and the gig economy is expected to grow further in the coming years. Yet, they say they don't have adequate rights and protections under Indian labour laws. Do we need a course correction? India's gig economy has witnessed tremendous growth in the recent years, driven by rapid expansion of technology platforms, increased demand for flexible work hours and work opportunities. According to the Niti Aayog, there are over 7.7 million gig workers in India. But does anyone have their back? Joining us now, first, we'd like to have two gig workers join us. Anil Kumar. Do we have Anil Kumar and Gyani Yadav? Okay, so we don't have, we're trying to get these two gig workers who are going to come on the show and tell us their story. But before that, let's just quickly introduce the rest of our panel tonight on We the People. Pankaj Mishra, journalist and co-founder of Factor Daily. K. Radhakrishnan, co-founder of Grocer Max, a retail and e-commerce professional. We'll have Choco Veliappa, founder and CEO of V Technologies, and Rohin, a representative of the Gig Workers Union. Damini Kane, a researcher at Cambridge University, formerly at Fairworks. Mr. Radhakrishnan, let me first ask you, these agents or drivers, they say they are working for over 12 hours a day, they're working for 7 days in a week, and they're not able to earn a basic wage for themselves to feed and look after their families. But isn't that the issue? Was this supposed to be, isn't a gig worker supposed to be a gig and not a full-time job?
Yes, I think we need to be cognizant of a fact that in any business, the stakeholders, which is the consumer, the founder, the investor, and the staff and the workers, they must be at proximity where each one is comfortable in what they earn. The problem arises when you set irrational expectations for the consumer, and then you start pushing for, for work from everybody else, which is not sometimes possible. So you have to be very careful how you set expectations with your investors and with the consumer, so that the focal point of the relationship is actually comfortable.
No, when you say realistic expectations, what are we talking about? Is it a basic minimum wage? Is that not a realistic expectation?
I don't think there is any question about the minimum wages to be paid. Minimum wages have to be paid. I'm not sure that there is any option to pay anything less than the minimum wages that anybody may earn in a month. That is the guideline. Even if it's a gig worker, I think there are guidelines by every state where the minimum earning that the worker must get must be met. And these workers work hard. I have no doubt about it. If these gig workers are not in play, I'm not sure how e-commerce will even work.
Okay, please hold that thought. I'm actually very grateful to have joining us on the show right now is Nandita Das. She needs no introduction. She is actually traveling en route in the US and she joins us. I'm very grateful. I know we barely made it, and we have Nandita Das on today because she has directed and made a film called Zomato, which basically gives us a reality check on. Actually, let me just ask you, Nandita Das, if you can just tell us a little bit about why you made this film, what led you to make this film, and what is it really about?
Thanks, Sarah. Yes, we just about made it. This film was really born during the pandemic. You know, during COVID, we were at home. This whole stay home, stay safe became our mantra. And we saw all around us, there were so many people who were vulnerable, trying to go back home. And the gig economy suddenly seemed like a boon, both for those who were jobless and also for us, because it made it so convenient for us to be sitting at home and ordering things.
Yeah.
And they are not really employees; they are called partners. So they are literally on their own with their device, both sort of metaphorically and literally, left to their devices. And it just seemed like a fascinating thing, because every time there would be an order, and even if they're 2 minutes late, they would apologize so profusely. And there was a sense of anxiety that one could feel.
Yeah.
And that's when I thought that it would be interesting. And my friend and publisher Sameer Patil and I sort of discussed about this idea. And we were going to do a short film. And then we took it to Applause Entertainment. And Sameer and I thought that it would make it for a feature film, and I started digging deeper into it, and there were so many things that came up because I chatted a lot with various writers, both in Mumbai and
what did
Bhubaneswar.
your research into the film show you about this industry?
I mean, nothing, there is duality in everything. Of course, there were also people who felt that this was saving their time during the pandemic. It gave them employment. Some did it as a stopgap, saying, "Thode din karunga, uske baad to proper naukri mili jayegi." But if you sort of talk to them deeper, you started realizing that there was a lot of anxiety, lot of fear. There was a pressure of time. I mean, the reason we are talking today is that, like 10 minutes or even 20 minutes, like that, I don't want to name the companies because it's not about any particular company.
Yes.
But the point is that there are many companies who've gotten into this, and instead of only blaming the companies, I think we should also blame ourselves. We are complicit as consumers, that what is it about us that we want everything at the click of a finger? And had we not wanted it, I think the companies wouldn't think of this smart plan of giving.
Well, we do give the ratings at the end of the day.
Our beck and call. So I think,
Nandita Das, there's a line.
and sometimes we don't, or we, think that we are. Sorry.
No, that's what I meant. Like, we are the ones who give the ratings, so we're also responsible. But in the film, there's a line that says, "Koi story thodi na hai, life dikha rahe hain." There's no plot.
Actually, this is not a line in the film. It's on YouTube. Many of the riders said that when they saw the trailer or the film.
So the film follows an ex-factory floor manager who's laid off. He's forced to take up this gig work, and especially after the pandemic, as you said, all too common. How does this protagonist resemble the gig workers of India today?
I mean, there were many who said that this totally replicated their lives, I mean, it is a story at the end of the day. I was very tempted to put in many different things as part of it. For instance, like we often think that if they have a t-shirt and a bag, the company must be paying for it because it's good marketing, it brings in a certain similarity in everyone, etc. But, they have to buy it. Or if they go out of their zone, there are many companies who send them far away, but to come back to their zone, the fuel is not paid, etc. There were many things that I wanted to include, but this is not a manual on it. This is more a story. But we also had some gig worker riders in Bhubaneswar who were part of the film. So the riders actually played themselves as well, and many of them said that this is totally, you can see the YouTube comments, they all say that it's very, very close to their life.
Nandita Das, thank you so much, both for making the film and for joining us, taking out the time for joining us on Be the People. I have Gyani Yadav, who is a delivery executive himself. He works with Blinkit. He now joins us. Well, we'll have Gyani. I have Anil Kumar. Do I have Anil Kumar? Okay. Anil Kumar ji, thank you so much. आप हमारे साथ बात कर रहे हो. कोविड के टाइम पे डिलीवरी एजेंट्स को लोग हीरो बुलाते थे. सब कहते थे कि आप आपके लाइव्स को रिस्क कर रहे हो टू एंश्योर एसेंशियल सप्लाईज रीच बिलियंस ऑफ हाउस होल्ड्स, कि आप घर घर में आप डिलीवरीज करते हैं. अब आपको क्या लग रहा है, क्या बदला है, आपके प्रॉब्लम्स क्या है?
प्रॉब्लम्स तो मैम यही है, जैसे हमारा जो रेट कार्ड था पहले वो 50 का था.
या
आवाज आ रही है?
हाँ हाँ प्लीज. आपका पेमेंट का डिलीवरी रेट कट की गई है.
हाँ, स्टार्टिंग में जो हमारा रेट कार्ड था वो 50 का रेट कार्ड था. उसके बाद कंपनी ने 25 का कर दिया. उसके बाद में 15 का कर दिया. अभी डिस्टेंस के हिसाब से काम करवा रही है.
सर, आप पहले क्या करते थे, कहाँ पे काम करते थे, वो नौकरी आपने क्यों छोड़ा था? आप क्या आपने सोचा था कि दिस इज गोइंग टू बी योर फ्यूचर?
मैम क्या कि अभी 3 साल से इसी कंपनी में काम कर रहा हूँ.
तो आप शुरू कैसे किया आपने? बिकॉज एक समय सब लोग सोचते थे कि यहाँ पे बहुत अपॉर्चुनिटी है.
शुरू तो कंपनी ने स्टार्टिंग में तो बढ़िया काम दिया, फिर बाद में धीरे धीरे घटाती चली गई.
ओके. और लास्टली यू नो, जब ये स्ट्राइक शुरू हुआ था, अब हमारे रिपोर्ट्स आ रहे हैं कि आपके कॉलीग्स वापस जा रहे हैं, काम करने के लिए, शुरू करने के लिए तैयार है. फिर से डार्क स्टोर्स भी खुल गए हैं.
5-7 बंदे, जैसे हमारे स्टोर हैं गुड़गांव में, कम से कम 10-12 स्टोर हैं. ज्यादा ही होंगे 10-12 से. लेकिन इतने जो स्टोर बंद है वो बंद ही है. बाकी 2-4 बंदे जा रहे हैं काम करने और बाकी कोई नहीं जा रहा.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Has the strike revealed problems of the gig economy, revealed the dark underbelly of India's commerce boom? Let's ask Pankaj Mishra, who's a journalist. He's also the founder of Factor Daily. Pankaj, you know, considering that the gig economy is here to stay, these companies seem to be booming, the gig industry is also booming, is it necessary to also think about the physical and the mental emotional well-being of gig workers? But how do you establish a meeting point between not curbing, let's say, innovation at the same time?
Yeah. Sarah, first of all, I think these debates about gig worker and gig economy, we need to make sense of it with the people who make the gig economy. So if you listen to Anil Kumar and if you listen to so many of others, the question is, what is the social construct that the company has with them? Because when they were on steroids, all these companies, and growing at a fast pace, because they wanted to chase, onboard more consumers and start all this crazy delivery schedules of 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and so on, then they truly needed them, and they were bleeding money, and now they are thinking of becoming profitable. So I think the first thing is, what is a gig worker? And what does it truly mean? If you look at the markets outside India, a lot has happened when it comes to welfare and other things. So that needs to happen with folks like Anil Kumar. Now suddenly you got them addicted to $50, $100, or even more. And now suddenly, because you want to become profitable and the customer is not going to cover the cost, so who do you cut? The delivery partner. So I think when it comes to making a choice between getting customers to pay more or lose customers, or rationalize things with gig worker, they are opting for customers and they are opting for cutting down costs. So I think this needs a deeper debate. And as Nandita was mentioning, right, we go around whichever town we are living in, we see logos of all these companies on the bags and mobiles and t-shirts. So delivery partners are today part of the mainstream society, the societal fabric. So there is going to be debate because now it touches us. We feel them, like you talked about during the pandemic. So all these questions must be debated. And this strike.
Choco Valiappa, leading players in India's gig economy, Ola, Swiggy, Uber, Zomato, they're all expanding operations. But as Pankaj points out, the workers are not sharing in those outcomes. Take us through, I mean, I know you're an angel investor, you invest in startups, etc. How does this work? Because in 2021, is this, actually giving us some insight into the overall malaise in the entire industry? I ask this because in 2021, quick commerce was one of the most hyped sectors, supposedly attracting billions of dollars in funding from venture capitalists. They were hiring hundreds, pandering to customers. Everyone was nervous, avoiding supermarkets. We were getting more than what we could even expect from these sites. But now startups are floundering, there are losses, there's funding drought reportedly, increased competition, and they're scaling back. And they're firing staff, they're shutting down these e-stores. Those 10-minute promises, 10-minute delivery promises all seem to have disappeared. Does the strike at Blinkit reflect a deeper problem within a hyper-competitive e-commerce market that everybody jumped in too soon?
Yes, Sarah. So I think it's kind of a wake-up call for all of us as humans. So, I mean, we've been too much driven into the technology world, we're forgetting that we are humans. And I think as customers, if I'm the same Indian who goes to the US and orders a thing online, doesn't blink two seconds to pay that customer 10% or 15% as tip.
Yeah.
When it comes to India, they want a nickel and dime, as the saying goes, in terms of not paying a tip to the delivery kid or some delivery boy or something like that. And I also think you raised a good point about investors. So I think the investors also need to get into the whole movement. I personally, so from B Technologies perspective, so we actually are converting ourselves into a B Corp company, and the B Corp company doesn't look at only the shareholder value. The B Corp looks at the entire stakeholder value. And when you look at the stakeholder, they're your employees, they're your suppliers, they're your customers, they're the traffic in Bangalore or wherever you are, where it's at large. So I think we need to look at the whole ecosystem and say, how can we be more human? I mean, we are a country which got our entire freedom without fighting a single bullet. But yet today, our delivery boys are fighting a war out there, and between companies and stuff like that. I think maybe a strike is a little too far. Maybe it would have been good to get an ombudsman or somebody like that to kind of look at the whole concept of the society at large and see what we should do and what we can do. But I think it is a wake-up call in many ways.
Okay, but let me ask, let me play devil's advocate. Can we ask K. Radhakrishnan, a gig worker is supposed to be a worker who is in the most base simple terms, it's like a contract worker, right? So you don't get benefits, you don't get profit fund, you don't get health insurance, etc., etc. If you're going to get all of this, what's the difference? You may as well just be a full-time employee then.
Well, you see, the entire e-commerce business is a fledgling business. There is waxing and waning of the business. So it is, these workers are also not open for permanent employment. They actually seek work at different times that suits them. We must also remember, while we say whatever we say, that these gig workers were previously mostly either underemployed or unemployed. And therefore, this is a new business which has actually come to them. They earn anything from, 12,000 to 25,000 rupees a month if the orders are good. So it is not as if they have left some other job that they were doing and come. Well, some may have, but most of them have found this to be a new avenue of employment, and therefore it is good when it's good. It's good when it's good.
Okay, let me ask Rohin. We have a representative of the gig workers union here. Rohin, can you respond over here? It's good when it's good, and sometimes they can make a lot of money, and many of them don't really want to be on full time on the rolls. Your response?
It's thank you, sir. It's very funny. There's a long tradition in this country of thinking that employment is some sort of bhiksha. And the words I hear seem similar to that, that we are giving you unemployment. When it is the fact that these companies who have grown rapidly are on the basis of the work of these gig workers, right? Their tales of crazy revenue growth all come from the work of these gig workers who are working in extreme heat or in extreme cold or in crazy rain. And yet they get nothing. They get peanuts. And you mentioned that, what's the difference between a contract worker? You might as well, make these people full employees. Well, what my response to that is that these people don't have a proper business model. It's not actually about humanity, as my co-panelists were saying. It's about basic economics. Is your business model viable enough if you have to ensure the people of this nation a decent job, which includes a minimum wage, which includes insurance, which is very important to them because these people get in all sorts of accidents and management doesn't come to help. They pay it out of their own pockets, which further immiserates them, right? So these people do not have, and in fact, anywhere, if you look at gig work models across the world are not profitable anywhere. Uber in its filings in the US has said that they will not be profitable in the midterm, at least, if not longer. So this is an unsustainable model. Especially when you have to go, when you look at manager compensation and then you look at the peanuts that these people are paid. I have some data here collected just this last week from workers who are actually working. For example, someone April 18th worked 13 hours, made 32 trips, got 610 rupees. If you assume around 200, 250 for petrol charges, that comes to around 27 rupees per hour and 11 rupees per trip. Is this the sort of employment they want to give?
Rohin, why are some of the workers then going back on the strike?
Oh, well, I just received, I was talking to someone before I came here and I asked them, aapke bhai log wapas kyun ja rahe hain? Because, ma'am, this is they live in highly urbanized places. There are things called rent, family expenses and others. They can't just live on air, That's why people have said, 10 rupees bhi jayega, hum kaam karenge. But that's because these people want to take advantage of unemployment, of a bad economy, and because frankly these people don't know how to make their business operate. Right? They receive, it's not me, workers themselves have said, ये लोग AC office में बैठ के BMW में आते हैं और हमें किस पे भेजते हैं साइकिल पे. I would like to know what Zomato or Blinkit had as their management compensation and incentives and bonuses for the last 2 years. And then let's compare that with what these people have earned. So I am very clear that this is not, they have a flawed model in which not only can they not operate their businesses profitably, they can't actually give their workers a fair wage. So,
all right, Choko Valiappa, please come in over here. You're an angel investor. You've invested in startups. There was so much of a hype. There was this quick commerce hype. But here where Rohin is saying that the business model itself is flawed, horribly, horribly flawed.
I don't know if the business model is flawed. I mean, we all survived COVID because of this. And from that perspective, I think we think that surely it's a right business model, but is it the right approach?
They aren't making profits yet, right?
Yes.
And then on the other hand, you have JioMart Express, I think, that 90-minute grocery delivery service. They said they're ending the service. Ola, Dash, speedy delivery venture, they've folded. I don't know about Dunzo, but supposedly that's not doing that well. So,
yeah, I think the whole thing is these are all, a lot of these kids are actually educated. And they're highly educated. And if you've had a conversation with some of them, they say that they can't go do a work in their hometowns because they feel that they're educated and it's below their dignity to do that. So they say their family is thinking that they're working in a city or something like that. So they're kind of stuck between the devil and the deep sea in many ways, right? So, but as companies, as investors and things like that, I think we need to have a reality check to say that, okay, a couple of basis points of lower returns or something of that is okay, but we will not trample or strangle anybody, or from that perspective. I think that should be the takeaway from this, to say that let's look at the livelihoods of people and let's make it at least a human element from that perspective of having a good work environment, right? So,
okay, Pankaj Mishra, for loss-making delivery platforms that employ these gig workers, profits seem to only be possible if you're either taking out, from the commission of the restaurants that you've signed up with, or on the other hand, you are reducing payouts to gig workers. Is there an alternative? Is there a third option?
Look, you can't wish away the gig economy, first of all. Okay, there is so much talk about, okay, you can't wish it away, first of all. The third alternative is, for example, if the delivery partners are so quintessential to the core business model of these companies, then why not employ a fleet? Okay, it may sound bold because the whole reason of them looking for gig workers is to cut down the cost. Why? So you have to first understand why did they go this way? Is because they believe that if they match people with idle time, with tasks, they won't have to carry the burden of employment and so on, right? But there have also been talks about keeping a fleet. If it is so central to your business and if you truly care about it, then why not keep a fleet? Why not find a better way of engaging with your so-called gig workers, create better contracts, and offer a lot of benefits and be rational about it. You can't wish away these platforms. You can't wish away gig economy as much as you bleed as a business now. They have a central role to play in digital economy and the way our lives are going to evolve.
Yeah.
So you can't wish it away.
So they're not going to go away anywhere. K. Radhakrishnan, your last words on this, 30 seconds. Is there an alternative?
Well, I think the alternative is that, like Mr. Valyappa also said, I think charity must also begin at home. The consumers must understand that they have to pay for good service. Otherwise, you're endangering the entire system. The imbalance that you create between the stakeholders is the number one problem. But Sarah, I also want to make this point. The gig economy is not the only one who lays off people. What everybody seems to have learned it from the IT industry as well, that sometimes you got to cut a limb to save the body. And these businesses are fledgling, and therefore sometimes they contract, sometimes they expand, and it behoves that you're able to manage your costs so that the entire business can survive. However, setting unreasonable expectations is not at all a good thing to do in where you're trying to balance the interests of stakeholders.
All right.
Sir, may I quickly come in?
Yes, please. 30 seconds. We're completely out of
very
time.
quickly. There are alternatives, by the way. There's been some research in the EU, and there are state governments in India who are trying to think of a cooperative model for this, right? Where basically you run these platforms on a cost recovery basis. You take a 1 or 2% margin for maintaining apps or making improvements, but you ensure that control remains with the people who actually power this company, right? So in case limbs have to be cut off, so I would say which one should be cut off?
All right.
I agree with you. I'm sure the gig worker may be the last one to actually suffer. I completely agree.
And should the gig workers be shouldering the larger burden at the end of the day? Thank you, Rohan, for that. But given how the gig economy is growing in India, providing social security workers is perhaps of crucial importance. Considering that the gig economy is here to stay, perhaps it is necessary to think about the physical and the emotional well-being of our gig workers too. Thank you all for joining us on We the People tonight.